one of the big storylines surrounding the first half of the LSU season, of course, maybe the biggest, has been Garrett Nussmeier's health. What do we know? What's speculative? How serious is it? Torso, ab, arm, knee, all the stuff. Toe, all the stuff that's been. He's got a toe. All the stuff that he doesn't have a toe. That'd be devastating if he did. And the only thing that Garrett Nussmeier to this point had said about his injury was when he met with reporters after the Ole Miss game, which LSU lost, and Nussmeier was asked, and point blank was asked about his injury, and this is what he said.
I'm not going to answer any questions about my health right now. Currently, right now, obviously, I'm frustrated about the loss, and just looking to get back, watch the tape, find ways to get better.
It's an 8-second answer. Not talking about his injury. That's the only thing Garrett Nussmeier had said when asked about his injury, and it was post-game. Ole Miss he had not spoken to the media since then until Tuesday night. And on Tuesday night, Garrett Nussmeier met with reporters and was asked if his early season struggles were related to his injury.
I think it's pretty obvious kind of what has gone on. I don't want to go into it directly. I'll say football, you're never truly fully healthy. It's a sport that you have to play when you're banged up. Obviously it's been frustrating, but as I said, it's football. You got to play through bangs and bruises. I have no excuses. And so I'm just looking forward to continuing to try and get better and finish the year off the right way.
So I think there's this interesting convo. At least Garrett acknowledged there and said, people, you can make the assumption of what was going on there. My thought pretty consistently, though, has been that whatever ab, torso, arm, whatever it was, and maybe after the season he'll go into more elaborative detail. Certainly the NFL will find out. But whatever he's dealing with, we'll find out later. I don't know to what degree that limited LSU, maybe changed a little of what they were trying to do, but my contention has largely been that they needed to show more consistency in running the football. If they did that, it would alleviate a lot of what was going on there in the passing game. Anyway, the numbers are the numbers, and the numbers tell you that through 6 games, Garrett Nussmeier is averaging about 100 yards less passing per game through 6 games than he did a year ago through 6 games. Now, those are very different teams, right? You had one of the best pass-blocking offensive lines any of us have ever seen. And they were 60-40 pass to run, and you had a bad defense as well, so you had a team that was trying to push the ball down the field and score and move the ball and be more aggressive. Brian Kelly said point blank against Florida they weren't doing that because they didn't need to. He acknowledged there were 4th downs where the analytics said go for it, but they didn't because they knew they could rely on their defense and special teams and so on. So part of maybe some of the slow start offensively could have been related to Nuss, some of it with the offensive line, some of it because you have a good defense, so you didn't need to be as wide open offensively. But all that to say, Garrett Nussmeier now has said coming through the bye week, he feels better, and he acknowledged that, this past week, number 2, please, that this past week, he kind of felt more like himself on the field with the way he was playing.
Yeah, I think just for one, just everything that I was kind of going through in the first couple of weeks was obviously very frustrating. I think I let it get to me a little bit, a feeling of helplessness at times, a lot of frustration. And so, now just having fun playing football, and trying to get back to that, just being me and playing the game that I love to play. And so I think I lost that for a minute there in frustration. And so, Coach challenged me with that to be myself and to bring that swagger back. So, I'm just going to continue to try and keep doing that.
One more from Nuss, and again, we'll take advantage of this opportunity because Garrett doesn't speak to the media much or hasn't this year. Play 9, please, where he was asked, Sidney wants to, in that cut, Sidney wants to start getting back to himself, so sort of elaborate on what that means.
Leading the offense the correct way, being the guy that can orchestrate this offense into what it truly has the potential to be. And so I think that's my goal, nothing else. I've said it many, many times, I didn't care about awards or things like that or focus on all this individual stuff. My goal was to be the best I could for the LSU Tigers and LSU offense. And so that's where my focus is. My focus with my teammates, my focus with my coaches and getting better and trying to continue this. At the end of the day, you can say whatever you want about us, but we're 5-1 and we got a great opportunity ahead of us. And so that's my goal, and that's what I'm looking forward to.
That point blank is undeniable. They're 5-1 halfway through the season, Every goal is still in front of them. So if his goal is to win, then the best way to go about doing that is sometimes going to be individual to the opponent you face. Against certain opponents, you can say, well, just do the things you do well because you're better and you'll be able to execute what you want. That's true against the Southeastern Louisiana or Louisiana Tech or team like that. There's going to be other games where you're going to have to game plan specific to that opponent. And I think when you look at this opponent in particular, where Vanderbilt is vulnerable is in their pass defense. Vanderbilt allows, on average, 222 pass yards per game. Just for context, Alabama threw for 340. Utah State threw for 274. They had an early season game against Charleston Southern, who barely got past 100 yards, which skewed some of these statistics even more favorable to Vanderbilt, or they'd be worse. They're pretty good in their defensive front. They're veteran, and they're gap sound. It's why their run defense is top 20 nationally. But where they are vulnerable is they lack the athletes on the back end. It's where LSU is clearly very good. We all can objectively look and say, well, there's Berrien Brown and Nick Anderson and Aaron Anderson and Trey'Dez Green and Xavier Thomas and Kyle Parker and Chris Hilton. Like, you have this never-ending barrage and conveyor belt of freak show athletes that could be a problem for the Vanderbilt secondary. And chief among them, of course, is Aaron Anderson, who is still, despite missing last week's game, leading LSU with 305 receiving yards on 23 catches. Your second leading receiver is Berrien Brown. Now, Brown leads you with 27 receptions, but he's got 261 yards. So Aaron Anderson missed last game. He still got 40 more receiving yards than Berrien Brown, despite missing the game this past week against South Carolina. And Brian Kelly on the SEC Coaches Teleconference Monday gave an update on Aaron Anderson that's pretty promising.
He went, the entire day and felt pretty good. His player load was good. We kind of monitor those things for our wide receivers. But the knee that he's had, most of his problems with is one that gets inflamed. And again, he's not 100%. And he's a guy that needs to play fast and free. And he just wasn't in that mindset this past weekend, but he is in practice this week. So we expect him to do a nice job for us.
So if you're scoring at home, Garrett Nussmeier feels like himself again. Sounds like you're going to get Aaron Anderson, your leading receiver, back. You're going against a Vanderbilt secondary that is not very good. So the question is, can you keep Garrett Nussmeier upright and give him time to throw? Just for context, Vanderbilt is tied for 14th in the country with 18 sacks, averaging 3 a game. And by the way, it's not like they had one giant outlier. 3, 3, 3, 2, 3, 4. So they haven't had fewer than 2 or more than 4 sacks in a game yet this year through 6. So they have been consistent, Vanderbilt has, at getting to the quarterback. On the flip side, LSU is 24th in the country. LSU's only allowed 7 sacks all season in 6 games. A big part of that is you have a veteran quarterback who knows to get rid of the football and not take the sack. So Nuss gets the ball out. Vanderbilt's very good at applying pressure. Can LSU's offensive line, which has been better at pass blocking than at run blocking, I think that's all objectively true, keep Nussmeier upright, give him time to throw against an inferior Vanderbilt secondary? That's the key to this game. That's what Alabama did. They threw for 340. That's how they moved the football up and down the field. It's interesting because we've talked a lot here, and I know I have, about LSU needing to commit to running the football. And I'm still standing by that. You've got to commit to doing it so you avoid a situation like against Ole Miss where they just dropped 8 the whole game. This is one of those situations where I think you probably need to pass to open up the run, because that's where you're going to have a major advantage, provided you can keep Garrett Nussmeier upright. Be an interesting game within the game Saturday in Nashville, but it's a great opportunity for a healthy Garrett Nussmeier, a healthy Aaron Anderson, a really potentially explosive LSU pass game. Get in gear as you start the second half of the season. We'll talk plenty about it as we inch closer to the game in Nashville on Saturday. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.